Welcome to episode 58 of our board game podcast, a master's degree in rolling terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me this week, a man so gullible, he actually thinks I write all these intros. Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, Gaz. That's a good one. I like that one. Good job, Eddie.
Yeah. I've got a team of writers now. It's great.
That's what it sounds like. And now I'm not going to know what's you and what's them. So until they go on strike and then the quality just dips like real bad, or it just becomes filler. Like, is a man and you repeat something that's already been done. You're like, sorry, we had to reuse material.
We do it enough. The AI algorithm understands the episode format and how to pump them out, right? That, and also every now and then I go, hey, in our Discord, someone DM me for an idea for this and this and this. Eventually, the Discord community is running the pod, and then we can relax.
That's perfect. I mean, I'm sure if you transcripted all of our podcasts and put them into AI and said, write me a podcast episode, it would be fine. I think it would be so good as well because it would talk about a scenario like it was real, but it wouldn't be real. Like, you could talk about it, and as long as you didn't say the number so people could look it up, nobody would know. Like, other than like a very small amount of people who know all the scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, that's not real.
A long time ago when we were just starting out, I made the amDirt Instagram, obviously, and I would update it, and my sister, who was trying to support me, would follow us. And every time I'd put a photo up, she'd be like, oh, those damn vermlings and their blah, blah, blah. And I would look at her and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm trying to support you. And I was like, you're mocking me. And she's like, no, I'm supporting you. And I said, how do you know any of it? It was ChatGPT, wasn't it? She's like, yeah. She's using ChatGPT to understand what we're doing.
I love it. This is the AI bringing people together, helping family members support family members with their obscure hobbies and interests.
Yep.
So
pretty much. Anyway, it's been a very interesting week of, news, conversations, and of course, busting out another Frosthaven scenario. And one of you might be pleased to know that we only completed one scenario this week. But what a scenario. Probably top 10 worthy, but more on that later. Mark's Trap Guide is now out on YouTube. Go check it out. It's
including
nice,
bloopers.
Including bloopers. It's short, it's to the point. Something Gaz and I struggle to comprehend.
Nah, that's it. I don't do short and to the point. I do long and
drawn out.
Long and drawn out. And when you get to the end, you're like, what's the point? Yeah, and you're like, it's more about the journey than the destination.
Yeah, and we all love the journey. You've taken me on the journey.
I'm still, the journey's still going. We're not at the end yet. You can't judge whether it's been a point full, pointless.
Look, if Mark started the pod, it would have been over like 18 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, we should get him to do a review of Frosthaven, and we'll also do one, and then we'll put them side by side and just see if he just covers the key points efficiently, and we go on and on and on and don't even get to the end.
We can fit his review in our review. We'll just put it somewhere in between. It'll be fine.
Yeah. We could review his review.
Oh, God. Okay, sure.
Yes. Reviewception.
Our Prism unboxing is going up during the week.
Yeah.
So
it's
keep
been
an eye
for reasons that are not my fault.
No, it's definitely not your fault. It was underpant gnomes who are meant to paint it or something like that.
Those underpant gnomes, they're so lazy.
It is going up next week, so keep an eye out for that. It's very exciting. It was a really fun unboxing, actually. It was probably the first unboxing that melted both our brains doing it, which is really, really fun. I'm just excited to see kind of how that one goes.
Yeah, it's my fault. I fell behind in painting the drill, which we just had, and then I fell behind in painting the prism. So check out my drill. It's on Reddit and the thingy. What's the other one called? Discord?
Yeah. Have you put it in Discord yet?
Yeah, it's in the mini section.
Oh, okay. No, our Discord.
Oh, no, I don't think I post them in there.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that would be way too promoting, right? Like,
okay.
Hey, look at me, look at me. Like,
in our own Discord. Okay.
Yeah, no, but not with our little community. Paywall. Oh, there we go. Patreon. Subscribe to the Patreon and I'll send you pictures of my painted minis.
Gaz will send you his drill.
Oh, you can't say that.
You said it.
I not agree to this. I didn't say it.
You did. Anyway, Frosthaven second printing is currently being fulfilled as we speak. This is very, very exciting just the plethora of people who haven't had a chance to play this yet. And you know what? If you're a listener and you've gotten this far into our pod without actually playing the game, that's a massive congratulations. I don't know how. I don't know if you exist. Your only experience of Frosthaven so far has been our terrible campaign.
That's it. And even more, if you don't even know what Frosthaven is, like I think like Daddy's mum, who was probably following the podcast still, if there's anyone else that's like, I still don't understand what this game is, but I love just listening to you guys.
Yeah,
Again, good job. But now you have a chance to buy the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And
I like that a lot.
Another reference that no one will get other than like a very small percentage of Australians, you can be big Kev excited about this.
Oh, God. RIP.
Yeah,
so,
too soon.
No, in all seriousness, so this is a very exciting time for people to enter the world of Frosthaven. Now, there might be an influx of new people in all the relevant communities. So I implore everyone to help out where you can. Be patient. Certain people with 74 SA at the end of their usernames. And let's keep the community growing. Okay, let's welcome all these people and try and encourage them. There's going to be an influx of rules questions. The letters F, A, and I believe Q are going to be used a lot. And I think we need to encourage these people to continue exploring and opening and playing this game.
Yeah, I feel like Dwarf has been like flexing his sure and no responses. Just, he's sitting there, he wakes up in the morning, he sits in front of the mirror, it's like, sure, no, sure. No, just so that he's ready to go when someone argues with him about something, and he could just be like, sure.
It's different when they argue. If they're asking a question, yeah.
Oh, the questions he answers, but then when they argue and tell him he's wrong.
Yes.
Anyway. But yes, you raise a really good point, and I think one thing that has been really cool about this community has been how helpful everyone is. Remember, it's the internet. You got to kind of bring an extra dose of Zen with you. But yeah, if you do see people asking questions, even if it sounds really silly, help them understand Frosthaven is a complicated game. We all stuff it up. We are still stuffing it up. Asking silly questions like, which person should that monster be attacking? So just remember, everyone has challenges in different ways.
That's right. And, to those starting out, if you know someone who is starting out with their group, etc., let them know about the pod, let them know about the YouTube, get their campaign starting right.
That's right.
Which is wrong, but they will learn what's right along the way.
If they listen to us, they'll know that log is not an obstacle, right? Helping. This is it. We're helping. It's a community first.
I reckon since we've started the pod, we've helped at least 3 people in some way.
At least. Yep. I mean, got to be 3. Like, that's a pretty good number of people that we've helped.
So on today's episode, we're going to be covering scenario 23, Spire Basement. I'm going to have a quick revisit to the old difficulty conversation. We're going to have a very micro chat about the drill named Phil. And Gaz is going to take us through a recent community conversation, and we're going to give our takes on a particular subject.
Stay tuned for that. Spicy.
Spicy? Okay, good.
It's not spicy. I just like saying it's spicy, so people look forward to it.
It's a bait, clickbait, voice bait.
Yeah.
So, our road event. This time on the way to scenario 23, this was summer road event number 2. Do you remember anything about this road event? No, you don't.
Oh, look, I'm sure once you start explaining it, I'll remember it.
I have the advantage of having the cards because I don't remember either, okay? So I can't be all smug about it. I also don't remember. So we ran into a person who, I think it was a Valrath, and they basically wanted to hear about our journey. And they wanted to hear about our notes and etc. And the 2 options essentially were, we want to hear about yours, or we would tell him about ours. And I can tell you right now, we picked the wrong answer, Gaz. I'm not going to say which one.
Yeah, but that's what's annoying is that, and this is one of those situations where I feel like the answer that how do I phrase this correctly? So your options that you're choosing between isn't how your character is going to answer. It's kind of like in an RPG where you pick an answer and then your character says something that's not that. You're like, whoa, I didn't want to say that. That's way too extreme. I feel like this is one where we were like, oh, this sounds cool. We'll pick this one. And then the character's like, I don't know, I've got nothing to say, so go away. And you're like, well, that's not what we meant at all.
Yeah, okay, I can sort of see what you meant. I know for a fact this one comes back in. It's going back into our deck, right? And when it comes back in, when we pick the other option, it will make a little bit more sense. We will definitely pick the other option, and then we will address it then. But yeah, it was.
Ahead?
Pardon?
Have you been reading ahead?
No, as in I've already read both sides.
Ah, you read the other side.
Well, the other side has way too much stuff on it, so I couldn't help but gloss over it because I was like, oh wow, that's not a short answer at all. What is involved in that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So we're gonna farm summer road events until we get this again.
That's right. Scenario 23, Spy Basement. So there's no story in this because we've killed the orphan, right? Oh, spoiler alert, we killed the orphan if you've skipped straight to this one to hear what happened in the Spy Basement.
Yeah, that's what's funny, right? Is that the whole place is shut down. Like this shouldn't even be operational. It's like these robots just didn't get the memo that everyone was dead and the place is closed.
Yeah.
You know, we've liquidated, we've closed the doors, everyone's been sent home. Sorry guys, the factory is closed. But there's this basement down in the bottom that they just forgot to tell and they kept rocking up for work.
And interestingly, the upper spire or wherever we went, they didn't block this one off either. So it's been kind of sitting there since we finished it. And on the way back down, we're like, should we check that out?
Yeah, you know when you're playing like RPG or Diablo or something like that, and you don't go one way, even though you've found the objective. It's like, here is the boss, here is the objective, here's the key, here's the door. Oh, but there's that little bit of the map we didn't explore. What if the best treasure is there?
If you, in that exact thing, RPG style, if you see a fork in the road, do you kind of go a little bit down one until you see it keep going, and then you're like, oh, maybe it's the other way? And you try to find the dead end way? Yeah, okay.
I always go left first, and then if it feels like I'm heading further in, then I go right. And it really annoys me when you have to rope-a-dope back because you go right and you go really far, and then you realize that's the way you are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. They need signs.
They do need signs. So we ultimately picked this because we'd finished the unfettered, but this is one that we hadn't done. So we wanted to kind of tick it off as a completionist thing. Number two, we've got a puzzle book. So we're trying to tick all the boxes, and it will do my head in if something really important was behind this scenario and we got to the end of the game and we're like, well, we never went back there. That's going to forever haunt me week in, week out. It's just better to completely write off the whole unfettered, quest chain.
Yeah, in a sliding doors alternate universe, I'm on this pod now complaining at the end of our Frosthaven campaign or in another 8 weeks.
Yeah.
That nobody told us that we should go back and do this quest. Why would we do this quest? It doesn't make any sense. And Dwarf would be like, oh, just do all the quests, right? Like do all the scenarios.
Yep.
So I'm glad that we avoided that alternate universe.
100%. So this is the reason we went here. And we figured, if it was easy enough, we can just pump out a second one. So the scenario goal for scenario 23 was the scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. At the end of that round, we read a thing. Already nice. Another kill all. Kind of makes me feel a little bit like it's going to be a little bit easy, but, we'll see. Scenario effect.
It was good, though, because we had Phil on his drill.
That's true.
So we were kind of like, we don't want to delve into something super hectic, and he's trying to figure out how to
drill things.
How to drill things, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
We kind of figured that this might be easy-ish. Not easy, sorry, but might be less complex. Good time to learn.
It's a good point, because we add a drill and we lose a blink blade. So...
Correct. So we all also have to work out how to play our characters.
Correct.
Because, now everything, it doesn't just instantly die. We're like, oh, hang on.
I have to do something now?
What do these cards do? So wow, you can attack things? That's weird. Yeah.
Scenario effect, everyone gains poison. Now, when I read this out, I was like, oh my God, that's actually one of the worst things. At least, especially, I don't know, for me, I just don't have a lot of self-healing. I've got a 6 health greater healing pot, and I really don't want to use it to remove this. So that was already... and the worst part is I've got a perk that I still haven't picked, which was Ignore All Scenario Effects, kind of left over from my playing as the Shackles, where I actually wanted the scenario effects. So that's a bit annoying. Will I tick it off? Maybe. I don't know, because I've gotten this far without it, so we'll see. Special rules, and there are none so far. No special rules. Our challenge cards for the week, which are always exciting. Greed is good. Enemies perform loot 1 at the end of their turns. And whenever an enemy loots a loot token, it gains strengthen. Okay, so interesting. We've gone with that one. We also went with Frozen Numb, which has come up a few times, and we keep saying, oh, we don't want that. This felt like the right time to have it, which is characters can't use bag items, which feels bad, but when the scenario is feeling a little bit on the basic side, it might be the right time, right?
Yep.
This kind of scenario is the right time for that. Our pets were Wart the Lightning Eel, Lunacy the Hound, monster combinations with Living Bones, Living Doom, Living Spirits. And our first room setup was a nice curved room with 4 Living Bones, 2 Elite, 2 Normal, and 4 Living Spirits, 2 Elite, 2 Normal. A couple of traps and a door. Initial thoughts, Gaz?
Yeah, I was like, this
Cool.
looks, yeah. Yeah, like there wasn't much. Like I looked at the initial room and went like, oh, okay, I've got these cards that I want to play as my banner spear. How do I make these work?
Yeah.
What's everyone like? That was it. I just went straight into what's everyone doing because I pretty sure I can hit about 5 monsters on my first turn if I can make people be in the right places.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I went into this thinking, yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to do some damage, I guess. We're going to see what the drill does. Do we increase the difficulty? That ran through my mind of there's only these 3 mob types. There's no over special rules. Do we? Don't we? And I was like, no, I won't. I won't mention it because maybe it's not the right time.
I wish you had.
I wish I had too. So, Banner Spear had a great start, an amazing start. Probably play of the game. I think you moved 2 of your teammates behind you in the Boldening Blow. I'm going to call it the Boldening Blow formation, but it's for your later. It's your level 9 card, isn't it?
Yeah, level 9 card. Yeah.
And you proceeded to hit like 6 things.
I think I hit 5 things. So it does an attack 3, hits 5 things with poison.
Got you. And Gaz's first attack for the game went something a little like this. Rolling heal self, rolling +1, rolling heal self, rolling shield, rolling +1, null. It was the biggest roller coaster of a turn.
Like, seriously, it's just one of those things. And this is why I hate rolling modifiers, because it gives me anxiety in that I'd rather just miss or not miss. Rolling means something good has come up, and now missing is going to feel even worse. Yeah. So I always stress whenever I get rolling modifiers. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just been the last few scenarios. Maybe it's because I finished out my perk deck, but I've got so many rolling modifiers in my deck now, and some of them are +1s. So it's not just like a rolling heal or rolling shield where you go, oh, well, I missed, but it didn't matter. This number was going up. Like I was hitting for 3 +1, then I mean, I still got the shield and the heals and stuff like that. But, I think it ended up at about 5, right? Which is pretty good. 5 and poison on my initial hit. And then good old Null.
Yeah.
May as well have been on top of my deck, right? Like it didn't matter that it was the 5th card because it was essentially on top of my deck.
But what I did notice now, and I don't know if it's because of the way you built your banner spear, is over the last few weeks, either that or you're not hitting, you weren't hitting as much as you are now. But you're hitting so much now that we're seeing so many of these +1s and the shield rolling and the self-heal rolling. You have a lot of crazy your rolling modifiers, especially the +1s. Did you add them late?
Ish. They've been in there for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
The problem is I played super supporty for the first half a dozen or so scenarios. Like I was healing a lot. I was really focusing on keeping like the heal banner alive was one of them. And so a lot of the attacks and stuff I was doing as well, maybe only 1 or 2 targets. Whereas now I'm going a bit more offensive and I'm kind of leaning into the, multi-target type attacks or formations. And there's a little bit more battlefield manipulation. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, they were added in the back half. Yeah, they were added later. But.
Okay. So yeah, you got your formation off. You got to do your level 9 card. It was great. Phil got to walk up and do drill stuff, and he's we've got a code word now for drill. I'm not going to go through the exact one, but it's somewhere between he either goes really hard, he's either really hard or he's really soft. And that's just been the easiest way to understand how the drill works. Now go watch our drill and thing to understand the concept behind the drill, but he's got an overcharge thing, like a pressure meter, and he's either accumulating a lot of pressure or he's releasing the valve. And hearing the conversations.
If you've been listening to the podcast for 50+ episodes, then you probably have a very good idea about where this humor is going and what euphemism it's actually implying. But it is hilarious. And he has lent into it like nothing else. Yes. So it's great, right? Because you can imagine that when he can't do what he wants to do because his pressure isn't like high enough, it's barrels of laughter. So yes, we are immature, and this is another reason why we cannot record our entire episodes and put them on the internet.
We sure can, but it's just it just comes so naturally as well. Our childish humor as grown adults.
0 time to come up with that as well.
So Mark also went in after you did. So we've got hard fill, and we've got you in there doing your big attack, and then Mark also went in and got his off. He's got a level 6 card. Mark is playing the Fist called Glacier Slam, and it's got the weirdest AoE pattern. I don't know, it's meant to look like a kind of like a weird asymmetric shockwave or something. It kind of hits everything, and he got to do his as well. And the interesting thing about that...
3 weeks.
Pardon?
He's been trying to get that one off for 3 weeks.
100%.
This is the one that the herders booked him on. I think we maybe messed things up. Initiative stuffed him up. At most, he's been able to hit 2 things. So he finally got a chance to like line this up and hit 3 or 4.
Yep. Yeah. It was great. And like between the 3 of you, the living bones just crumbled, and all that was left was a couple of, living spirits that, had the shields up, etc. So while all that's happening,
Also notably, in that first 2 turns, I got attacked by everything on the board twice. Obviously, some things died as we went along, but that all worked out to be about maybe 6 or 7 things in the first turn and about 4 things in the second turn. I think I took 7 damage because I had like the 2 extra shields, and it just was crazy.
Yeah, you did. The rolling shields really helped. I don't think I've ever seen them help.
Next round, I went really early, did another formation, hit another 4 things, also got more shields. So it was dumb. Like, it's just kind of not taking any. I think Mark took more damage and he didn't even get hit because he was just eating his own face to get his cards back.
Oh yeah, a little bit later he miscalculated what he was doing, and he took 3 hits from a single skeleton because it was a all target, or the same target receives all 3 hits, which he miscalculated. But yeah, it was a really, really basic room. Not to say it was a complete pushover. We lined things up properly because they may have done a heal shield or whatever, and not moved into position, and there's a lot of things that can always go wrong. But it just clapped, and this room just went down. I didn't do anything. I had quenched rage on, and I couldn't do anything else because everything else was dying. And
that's always a sign that we are ahead of the curve. Like the tempo is in our hands when we are looking and going, can you please not kill that one right there? Because otherwise I can't do anything with my turn. And it's like 1 skeleton on 2 health.
Yep.
It's like, I suppose like I can try and move over here and be out of position, I guess. And that's it. That's where we're at, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I need to start ticking my quench rage down so I can use it later. And again, if you kill that guy, then I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's just because things were dying so quickly.
Oh, and the thing is, I don't think anyone planned for that to happen. We knew we were hitting massive AoEs, but AMD with +1s and all sorts of stuff, and with 2 of you doing AoEs and Phil drilling the other one, it was, it was a given that there was not going to be very much to hit after everyone had gone.
Yeah, we talked about this. We recently recorded a monster tier list again, and we talked about living spirits because this came up. And having 3 shields and low health, we don't have a lot of problem with pure damage or getting through shields. So once they had poison on it, it was pretty much as soon as someone hit it with a decent hit, it was dead.
Yeah.
So they really didn't provide much of a speed hump at all.
No. So we have this situation. Once we cleared the room, we make our way into the second room. Now, I don't know if other groups actually have this interesting situation where when everything's up and everything's relatively easy and we don't have to think too much apart from our turn, we play very who can go quickly, right? Go quickly, do your initiative. The minute there's a door, no one's in a rush to play quickly. And I'm curious whether other groups have this situation where all of a sudden everyone's fast cards just disappear and everyone's trying their hardest to go late. Why? Well, the answer's obvious. They want someone to open the door so that they can go in and then proceed to continue, and I'm bursting. And that was the situation I was in. So I had done nothing so far this scenario. I finally catch up to everyone, only to realize that I'm probably in the best position to open the door somehow. So I organized with Gaz, and he's like, look, we're saying who will go in. And I decided to go in. And lucky for me, I went in, saw what was in there. We had 3 spirits, and I lined up Igneous Path, which is the one where you can design like a flame wall almost. And immediately, because it's pure damage, 3 damage each, the living spirits have 3 health, the normals anyway, and book 2 of them. And that made me extremely happy, right? It was a lost card. I got to go in there and get a bit of XP because, for reasons, needed a lot of XP. And that was my whole goal. But that was probably my highlight. That and leaving a lot of boxes in the back of the scenario with where I left hazardous terrain, turning them into, I think with cooling, turning them to obstacles because I couldn't get near anything else in here with the 3 of them running around.
But that was good that when you went into that room because you went in, you had a good turn, you killed two of them, you got the fire down, and then you stood next to two of them, and I went straight after you,
Yes.
and I moved in and sucked one in and hit all three of them.
Yep.
Like it was great.
And then
It was
my whole job was I decided to become Mr. Plow. And I started to, my job was to deal with the obstacles. We had all these obstacles that were giving us a weird pathing to make it take a little bit longer if you didn't have jump. And I was like, that's okay, I'll help. I will spend my turns destroying those, which, by the way, give me XP. So I wanted that. And then a certain drill comes up behind me and smashes one next to me. And it's like, I can do that too. And I was like, cool. The only cool thing I can do right now, and you're also doing it, Mr. Floppy.
Hey, it gets him hard, okay? So
It does. It does.
smashing objects.
But yeah, a couple of traps in the room, more living bones. It was a bit of a cakewalk, really, and then it just came down to, utilizing traps. I used Quench Rage in this room on an attack 1 because I was just like, I need to use it. I need the XP and I need to at least do something and get it back. So it was one of those situations again. So yeah, and then room 3, right? Room 3 was the last room. We open it up. We have a Living Doom. Now, Living Dooms are a creature or a monster that we've seen maybe, this is probably the 3rd time altogether. And it had 4 skeletons, and they were normal, and there was a couple of pieces of difficult terrain. And Living Dooms, I don't think I've ever really had too much of an opportunity to show why or what they do. This was the first time I felt it a little bit more from them, because they actually do have some hard-hitting things, and there was special rules tied to this room where this guy had 28 health, so it was a bit more than probably a normal Living Doom. It was still half a hit from a Blink Blade. And then it had special rules regarding it was immune to disarm, it was immune to stun, and it had +2 on all its attacks. So it was hitting pretty strong. I think it had an attack 8 at one stage, so they can hit pretty hard. The thing about them that I underestimated was the summon. They summon living spirits based on their amount of health. So it's like in chunks of 5. For every 5 health that they have currently, they get to summon a living spirit up to a maximum of 3. And that could be problematic if they draw that twice, because living spirits, you've got 10 standees, and even though we don't have too much of an issue with them, I can see maybe on high difficulties, if they've got an extra health or something and a slightly higher shield, that could become pretty gross.
100%. If there's 6 of them, like if he summons 6 of them in 2 turns, right? I mean,
or if there's 2 Living Dooms, right? We've only ever seen one. Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's going to become challenging because you have to deal with, like, they still have 3 shield and 3 health. And they also do multi-attacks. So anytime you have anything that's swarmy that has multi-attacks, that can get real gross. Because, it's one thing for one person to get focused, but if we go in there and they go attack 2 and they go, great, cool, well, now we're taking 12 attacks, that starts getting dangerous. So, yeah, I also we saw a little bit about why Living Dooms could be dangerous.
I wonder if it's by choice. What?
Spoilers, this one was not.
No, but I wonder if it's by choice that they keep placing them in like end room scenarios, like 107, and only one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe only one because otherwise RNG would just wreck you, right? Like we'd be talking about that in the same case of like 22 with the wave throwers. Like if you had 2, they just have to draw that card 2 times and it just become impossible. Like, it could actually become impossible because they just summon too much. And I know you can only have 10 standees, but you got to deal with them and the Living Dooms. Otherwise, they're just going to summon more. So,
on a kill all scenario, yeah.
Yeah, true. If the objective is to get somewhere or get something, then maybe not. But it's just interesting. I think they're a cool end of the road boss. Like not a boss, but like a monster at the end of a scenario. But I feel like in this case, the scenario was nowhere near. It didn't drain us enough for that to be a hard fight. But I can definitely see if you went into that last room beat up, you could be like, okay, I could see how this is going to get scary.
Yeah. And it comes down to, I think we said it in the past, tempo. We had such crazy, we're so ahead of the curve tempo at the beginning. That the rest of it was like we had the stamina to make it all the way to the end, and even if that last room took us probably another 3 or 4 rounds, it still would have been comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for a scenario
actually
we cleared it and we cleared it pretty easily. It still took us ages because that's why we didn't play another scenario.
No,
I think we finished till about 9 o'clock, so it was like slightly too late to start another one. But that's because that last room, I think we just took it easy.
Oh,
Like everyone was trying to get
Phil took a little
XP.
longer than he normally would, but he was really going over his cards and trying to work
Yeah,
out, I'm hard now, what do I do? Like there was a lot of that happening, and we encouraged him to take his time and think with it because we don't want to push him. Otherwise, you want someone to enjoy their time with any character.
yeah.
So
And I think for those reasons, this was a really good scenario, and we didn't know what we were getting into, but we chose well because I think he made a few mistakes, and that's just with his card balance and how he gets his steam up and down and stuff like that. That he now has learnt a lot from, but it wasn't resting on a really pivotal escape scenario where he'd be like, guys, like I'm still working out the puzzle and now I'm in trouble. It didn't really matter. He was kind of able just to have a free hit to like, hey, just work yourself out. And I think already for the first time, he's changed some of his cards over
Yeah.
because he usually picks his hand at the start of creating a character and is like, nah, that's it, I'm done.
yeah, he
Right.
he did say it towards the end. He's like, I need to swap a few cards out. Like these did not work, and I love that he did that, and we get those moments.
So that was perfect.
It was. So yeah, we had a giant group at the end. It wasn't a big deal. We laid the smackdown on them and we covered them for a 3 count and claimed the victory. Reward wise, we did not get Puzzle Book 2.0 or anything like that. We got one random item blueprint, which is fine. I don't mind emptying the blueprint deck for more items that we'll never make, but it's always cool to see them.
That item actually I would make on the characters.
Was that Parrying Gauntlet?
Yeah.
Or was that something else? Can't remember.
Yeah, the refreshable retaliate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I
Too
can
bad no
see
one's playing a
previous-
retaliate style at the moment.
Yeah. In previous characters that I have had, I could see that being very good.
I agree with you. Thoughts on the scenario?
It was fine. Like I think this is a Gloomhaven-esque scenario. So for all the complaining we've ever done about Frosthaven scenarios and them potentially being too complex or all over the place, this felt like a chunk of the scenarios in Gloomhaven.
This felt like
from
the
A to
most Gloomhaven-y scenario we've done in a long time.
Yeah, like it's on par with like the first lurker quest where you go through and kill the Yeti thing and all that kind of stuff, right? Again, it probably could have, like, in hindsight now, we probably could have bumped up the difficulty. But I mean, and I think you said we're going to have a chat about this. That is also because we have a level 9 banner spear, and not that I can really do much on my own, but in the right positions, I can do a fair bit. Mark's kind of getting the hang of his fist now, and he started to pump a bit of damage.
Tempo's good.
And, despite you getting left behind, like when you are having your turns, you're doing a lot. So that all combined to it, being pretty easy.
Yeah.
I can see a group struggling with this if they don't have much access to PS.
Well, here's the thing. You can access this scenario relatively early because it's towards the start-ish of the unfettered quest chain when you make the decision to go this way. So you can, and this is where we go to the community section. This was actually covered on Traveler Tuesday. I don't remember if it was this week or if it was before. But a lot of the conversations are similar to what we're having right now. Quite easy. My insert locked character here did really well with this. Insert locked character here with pure damage here and there. And then the occasional person was like, oh, we kind of struggle with this, but they were with their OG group.
Yeah.
Living bones that are ganging up on people, the spirits and limited pure damage possibilities and pierce. I can see where it would be a bit of a struggle.
Well, thinking about really quickly our original group, which was the Drifter, the Bone Shaper, the Deathwalker, and the Gemini.
Yeah.
If we were all around level 4 or 5, right, which you could be when you get to here, I don't think we wouldn't struggle with this, but we also it wouldn't be a cakewalk because we didn't have an excessive amount of pierce. Like I think your Drifter was the best for pierce, but other than that, we didn't have much pure damage. Like there was a little bit coming out. I don't think the Bone Shaper had like its super mega ultra kind of steamrolly kind of pet. So it would have been a lot more of a grind. Like I don't think hard, but I think grind because everything has shields. You got to push through. You got a poison thing. You really got to work it out that way and kind of focus fire. So
that's exactly it. The mob type would stay the same. The difficulty will go down, but you're still going to have the exact same amount of creatures that are in there. You're not necessarily going to have ways to deal with that bendy corridor with all the obstacles that were blocking it. That's forcing us to maze around. unless you're saving your jumps for it. So because things die slower, yeah, you're probably looking at a little bit more of a, it's going to be attrition a lot more than what we dealt with, where we've got answers for everything right now. So,
yeah.
I'm going to give an update on something that is tight. Yes.
I just realized that was also without bag items.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I have 5. Like,
that's a good point.
So yeah, definitely.
The strengthen thing actually was interesting. It actually worked quite a few times with some of the groups that were looting and getting strengthened. But I think we also had enough things that were giving, I think, Muddle as well as that there were a few instances where they were counting each other out.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
The thing is as well, mob type matters heaps with that one because they loot at the end of their turn, not at the start of their turn. So because most of them were medium-ish speed or slow, a lot of the time as well, it didn't make a difference because we could kill them before they had their turn. So, we kill something, they loot, then we kill them before they could really make use of the strengthen. So
Yeah.
I can definitely say there were some other gross scenarios we didn't want to take that one on.
No.
Because you imagine Chaos Demons having that? Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat this loot, and the next turn I'm going to go at 1 and I'm going to just punch you for 6 with advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got rid of the challenge. And the frozen like you said, with the bag item thing, I think that's a crucial one that we got rid of, because bag items are, I didn't get to even use my pot for healing or anything like that.
Yeah, no pots healing,
starting
no
off with poison,
pots.
Yeah. It was just, it was kind of rough. Pet wise, we definitely did Wart. We love Wart. Mark loves you, Wart, by the way. Mark's playing his Fist, and you're really helping Mark get his tempo back. He says you're the favorite pet for him, and he's always keen to try and get that Wart timing. And I think we're getting better at the Wart timing, especially considering now 3 of us have level 1 cards and a lot more of them. But you still are carrying, I think, a heal one or something. So it was still a good usage to get that. And then Lunacy, I sneakily used you right at the end because everyone totally forgot about you. And when I finally caught up to the last room to use Quenched Rage on the Living Doom, I was like, and I used Lunacy and all the items and went for my big swing. So no, that was great. Thank you, Lunacy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised everyone forgot. When I did it, I was like, oh, you're sneaky.
We just were barreling through it. We forgot about all the extra cool tricks we had.
That's true. I wanted a little update on building 74. I think it's 74. It's got to do with the ancient coins that we got from the tavern. We have cleared one, and we've now, I think, exchanged it for an ancient coin item, which has just gone in the pile with the other 2. Because I haven't really updated anyone on this, because every time you loot one of these cards, you tick off the box and read the section. The second, we got pretty good with the first one. The second one, we have 2 left, and we still haven't found it. So it's been really unfortunate, but that's kind of the ancient coin status. I don't know how this is going to play out in any way, but I'm just letting everyone know in case anyone's wondering where we are sitting regarding ancient coins section ticks. We found it again today, last session, and there were 3 to choose from, and I picked one and got it wrong again. So yeah, it's going to be the last one. It's
100%.
Stupid. It's this normie scenario.
Yeah. Well, with our group, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with the ease in which we got through it, yes, I don't think that he would have a problem. And there isn't particularly bad monster types. Skeletons, maybe, if he goes too far forward, it means he's going to get hit because of the multi-targets, but it's fine.
It would have taken forever to get through that second room. Even with the obstacles gone. He's just moving it too, and there's no one to boost him. So, yeah, Omi's fine. He loves this scenario. All right. Just quickly on this, I want to go into a little bit of difficulty. So yes, we've talked about this. Difficulty is one of the hardest things for us to gauge whether or not we should bump it up or not without knowing full information about what we're dealing with. And because we are running a podcast and we have to record it and we have to do exactly what we're doing right now, we can't afford to play the scenario 2 weeks in a row. We can afford to play it twice in a row in the same night, but not 2 weeks in a row. And this is the problem where we want to increase the difficulty because of scenarios like this. This scenario was, to me, I think that there's nothing wrong with the design of the scenario. It was just a fizzer for us. And it was kind of like, let's go another one. We should have gone up in difficulty, X, Y, Z, all these things. This is without the bling blade, right? This is we're capable at doing it. It's just the fear of picking a scenario where it pushes us over the line in a different way.
Yep.
And
we're scarred, right? Because the last time we had the serious conversation about do we need to bump up the difficulty was scenario 44.
45.
Yeah?
Yes.
45, which we had to complete 3 times in a row without changing the difficulty.
This is the part I want to throw back at you. If we had raised it, would it have made a difference? Because I don't know
we
if
would have lost.
No,
more.
I don't think so.
Yes, we still would have lost twice. I just don't know if we would have completed it the third time.
No, because I reckon we obviously lost because of stupid decision making. I stood next to a spawning eels knowing that they were going to spawn. And that booked me the first time we lost, right, from going back. So that would have happened regardless of whatever difficulty.
There was lots of things that happened. It wasn't just that. Like, there was a whole series. But anyway, yeah.
That also felt like a long time ago. It was before Japan.
Oh, it was a long time ago. And these scars, they might heal. But
moving forward, we're going to run into scenarios like this where we're going to be like, okay. Like, we know that people in the community are playing at +1, +2, right?
But they're really good at the game.
I know they're really good at the game, and we're not.
Great.
I know. So,
can you imagine doing the couch moving scenario like harder?
Okay. Yes, I can. If a Blink Legend gets stuck moving the couch in the hallway and getting smashed up by a bunch of Frosthavens.
But this is the thing, right? Like, yes, I guess I 100% agree with you. If we were better at the game and made better decisions, then raising the difficulty wouldn't be a problem, but that's not who we are. Like, we're not bad at the game, right? But we're also not min-maxing and optimizing everything. So I feel like people who are bumping the difficulty up are probably paying a bit more attention to that aspect.
Maybe.
And not that's a generalization.
Yeah.
There probably are people who aren't doing that, but are just really good decision makers, right? And they just see it and they play it, right?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that we should bump up the difficulty. I'm just scared of what's going to happen.
I'm also scared of it. I just feel like if we don't do something, and I don't know what that something is, I'm not telling you I've got an idea. I'm almost reaching out to the community to say, what should we do in our current situation, right? We play on Mondays, we record on Fridays. You don't want to hear us talk about the same scenario 2 weeks in a row and us bashing our heads. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I should check the ratings of 45 because who knows? They probably went through the roof right now.
Yeah, like when we're doing the 3rd episode in a row on the Spire basement because we bumped it up too high. And Living Spirits, man, they're just too hard.
But at the same time, if it's a stomp like this, we don't get good content to report on other than lol easy, right? It's just unless we're looking at it purely from, I guess, the design point of view of the design was excellent, the flavor was lovely, the scent and the aroma of the oak and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm looking. It's if this happens too often, then I would agree, and we would probably have to look at bumping the difficulty up. But I just don't think that's happening. I think again, we're probably in the same place we were just before we did 45. We were like, lol, we're so good at this game, we're smashing it all, and we're about to get like just absolutely booked. So
and we're about to introduce a Prism next week.
Correct. We're about to introduce a new character that I have no idea how to play and are probably going to stuff up multiple times. And so if you think you can 3-man each scenario, then go ahead.
Maybe that's what we should do. We should start going, you know what, whose master is it time this week? Okay, you're just focusing on your master. I don't care how much it books us. There you go.
Actually, you know what, Mark raised a point when I think at the end of a session about the difficulty, because I think we might have discussed it in some way, where I think he was mentioning that there's basically like a sweet spot that we need to be looking at when we raise it. Because we keep having this discussion and then we introduce new characters. Because we forget that 45 was his first ever scenario on the trap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it worked quite well because of the type of scenario. It wasn't what he could do. But at the same point, he was still trying to figure everything out. So it's like bumping the difficulty up this week as we go into an unknown scenario with Phil on the drill for his second scenario and me on the prison for my first scenario, where I know I'm going to stuff some things up, right? We could have a really bad time.
I think we should have gambled it. As in the future, we have the scenario, and you're right, we factor in all of those things. I'm only looking at the first page anyway. I'm not looking at the layout, but everyone knows how we set things up. We know what creatures we're up against, and we know the objective, and we can see a big purple box if one exists. And we make the decision then and there and just go, does this look at... Because we could have looked at that set up last week and gone, we could totally do this. And we would have felt confident doing it.
That's a good point. Yeah, let's start doing that. We'll have a look at the scenario, see what the objective is, and if it's like push this couch through this hole while also collecting bubbles so you don't die, and there's dark terrors or deep lurkers, whatever they're called, everywhere on the map, we go, yeah, maybe not.
No.
Right? But if it's like kill a bunch of living bones and living spirits and get to the end,
Yeah.
right?
We're plus
then
3 in it.
like, yeah. Wow. Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
plus 3.
Sure.
go.
The other thing as well is that increasing the difficulty when we have level 9 characters is also probably not all that beneficial.
No,
Same.
that's true.
So,
All right.
but as Daddy said, thoughts and feelings on this from our community, and don't just say yes, bump the difficulty up. Tell us why. Like if you're
Put
somebody,
yourself in our shoes. Put yourself in our shoes.
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
say, well, you know,
if you are a group that regularly plays on a high difficulty, tell us, and you kind of know how we play in a way. Tell us how you think we would go if we were doing it, and how often you're failing scenarios because of the difficulty, right? Like, because you're right. Maybe you just bump it up one, and then we relearn how to play the game, but at a high difficulty.
yeah.
I mean, I played most of Gloomhaven Digital at plus 2 or 3 difficulty because it just
I'd have no
becomes
problems
a lot
doing
easier.
it in any other situation other than we are recording the pod. That's ultimately it. Otherwise, we could sit there and if it was come back next week and play it again, it's fine. It's literally just this part that becomes tricky.
Yeah. So
All right.
anyway,
Battle goals, wastrel. Lose a card to negate 2 or less damage from an attack. I believe a certain Fisty Boy had that one. He succeeded with that one because things were just hidden like peanuts. Pacifist, kill 3 or fewer enemies. I don't think Phil will ever pick this again. Or, well, maybe he will, but he would never have picked this on the Blink Blade.
not a chance.
No, and we would have raged if he did. Workhorse, gain 13 or more experience before any bonus scenario experience. This was mine, and meteor means meteor people. Have you noticed that meteor does not gain much XP compared to, I don't know, Snowflake, Shackles, Drifter? Because I'm really feeling it, and trying to get a 13 XP on the meteor was horrendous. I got it, but it was I had to go out of my way to not do other things to get it, and I really felt that. Luckily, the scenario was super easy. Otherwise, yeah, I'd book it if I needed to. Zealot. Have 3 or fewer total cards in your hand and discard pile while also not exhausted at the end of the scenario. Interesting.
I don't even think I read that. I think I read the first
that's
few words.
right.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah, because you're 9. You don't care at all. DPS. Damage-wise, we had Phil on 25 on his brand new drill. We had me on 29 on my meteor. We had Mark on 45 on his fist. And like you said, Mark was actually doing really well with his element usage. He had really good tempo with managing them and using them, consuming them, using them, consuming them. It was really it was like a dance, the element dance. Gaz on 78, top in the meters. Now that we don't have a Blink Blade, Gaz is like, it's his time to shine for one scenario only.
I know. I shouldn't have retired.
Damage taken, I took 5. I really stayed out of everything. Phil, I'm pretty sure that was damage from myself. Phil took 18. Gaz took 19. Mark took 62. I think he's definitely one with mounting his higher cards now. But it's not ever putting him in danger zone. Not like it was in the upper spire.
Oh, there was a couple.
Kind
the
of.
upper spire was, I think the other thing as well, we don't record mitigation anymore.
No.
So like my 19 was probably with 19 mitigated 30. Like there was,
point.
and I didn't even use my like gain 2 shield for the round.
You didn't even ult, no.
No, so.
Healing. Phil healed 7. I healed 8. Gaz healed 19. Mark healed 42. Those are huge Mark numbers, the trifecta there. We finish, we go into the outpost phase. We have a summer outpost event 55. Now, do you remember this one?
No.
Okay. There was some dude. There's always a dude. Some stuffy looking man basically wanted us to help him with an instrument, I believe. A harpsichord. And he said he really wanted an Algox tooth.
It was 230, right?
Yeah, it was 230. And I immediately pointed the mark and was like, yeah, that guy. Because I actually forgot he was an Algox. It was just, I was like, oh, if only the Snowflake was here. Wait, there should be another one. Oh, you do it. So that was handy. It was like the the one we had a while back with the Acer, and only the Acer person, that was me, got the benefit from it. This was the one where only he got the actual benefit from it, which was pretty cool.
That's true.
And we had to remind him, actually. He starts the next scenario with wound. So,
Oh, yeah. And 2 damage?
oh, he doesn't care about wound, does he?
Yeah, he does in the first turn.
Oh. No, just wound.
Oh, okay.
Banner Spear retires. Now, if you've been living under a rock, he had PQ 15. It was requiring money to go into the temple. He has completed this. He is very happy.
We're done. Yay.
He is done. Banner Spear retires. Everyone rejoices, especially Gaz. Gaz, what did we unlock from your envelope?
Should I say it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got a new building.
I never know. I never know what level of spoilers we're doing. It was like the metal camp or something like that. Or
I wrote smelty place, so I also don't know what it was.
Oh, yeah. It's basically you can sell metal.
Yeah, okay.
For money. So you can trade the metal resource in for money.
Yeah. And we built this.
Like,
were you overjoyed with this building? Did it make you excited? Or have we unlocked all the fun buildings already?
Yeah, I think maybe we have. Yeah, I'm trying to. I at the time, and now I'm trying to like harness my inner dwarf and be like, yeah, buildings are fun, right? This is a great building. I'm really excited about the future and how we can exchange excess metal for gold. But it really wasn't. Look, it was fine. Like I like the idea of this building. I feel like there's probably going to be one for wood and one for hide, or at least something for wood and hide that lets you do a thing with excess. And that actually makes sense now because you get to a point where you'd have resources you don't want. Like eventually everything's going to get built or close to, and you don't need them anymore. So turning them into money, it does make me think that this is how you're supposed to use the enchanter.
Right, from selling excess stuff to then pay for it.
Yeah, so I can now see how you could end up flush with enough money to actually use the enchanter.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that might be later. Maybe that's the last year of Frosthaven where you're going through and everything's upgraded. You don't really need resources, so you're just pumping them into this thing to get money. Who knows? So yeah, not the most exciting building, but like, hey, we unlocked another building.
Well, more importantly, we got to build it and then also go above Prosperity 7. Oh, we did that with your retirement anyway. So we're now it's literally unlocked everything else in terms of upgrading our buildings again, which is great.
Like 6 or 7 buildings to build. So yeah, we're now pumping them out.
Yeah. And I think we upgraded the shop or craft.
Crafter. Which is probably news to Phil and Mark because they'd left by that stage. So hey guys, we upgraded the crafter.
Yeah. I think there was something good in there. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a couple of items.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, interestingly enough, that's good for Phil because his new PQ is crafty. So
something about that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that'll help him in the sense. But yeah, I think there was something in there that I liked. So
nice.
Interesting.
We unlocked the prism. We will not go into it because we will save that for the unboxing. We spent a good time talking about it, and it was very exciting. So yes,
I'm very excited about this.
Yes, we'll get to see how that all goes. I'll keep an eye out for that next week. Quick notes. Anything of note with the drill that you can think of?
It definitely is going to take Phil a bit of time to get used to the ups and downs of the pressure, and I can see him not being able to do what he wants because he hasn't managed that. It has. I think on the surface it looked like you are going to need to do that, but then in reality he got to the point where I think he'd burn a card. He got hit really hard early on, and I think he needed to burn a card. And then
I remember that.
Another card when he rested, and he was learning all his cards. He didn't realize that I think he burnt 2 of his 3 increase your pressure cards, or something like that, because he found himself in a position where he's like, I can't do this, and then
he couldn't get it up. Yeah,
he couldn't. Yeah. So he needed to go smash some obstacles, and that was like his last outlet, right? Like so that is interesting, and again, I think that's caused him to relook at his hand and not just go, oh, well, what are all the cool attacks? It's also okay. How do I combo this stuff? So Yeah, the class is seeming a lot more like a combo requirement to pump damage rather than the Blink Blade seems more like if you can combo it, you're going to get just ridiculous amounts of damage. But if you don't combo well, you're probably still fine. This one seems like if you don't combo fine, you're probably going to have turns where you just don't do anything. Like, I think early on he had a turn, he's like, oh, I'm like max pressure, but if I move, it's going to spend my pressure. Right. So it was like, I don't want to do that, but it's mandatory. So he's going to have to figure that out. And that's going to be the challenge for him.
It's a cool puzzle. The only thing I'm noticing is that the front line is extra packed and like a little bit extra packed now, which I'm finding slightly inconvenient. I hope it doesn't get even busier.
I can't make any promises with all my robots.
I hope you just play with the ranged one, the support.
Yeah, 100%.
The medic one, and the turret.
Yeah, I was just gonna play with the healer bot and the two
shield
ranged
bot
turrets and move them around. Yeah, and just do a right click move robot guy.
Yeah,
okay. Sounds like heaps of fun.
Yeah, I did ask one question to Phil towards the end of the scenario, and that was, how much fire do you make? Because he consumes fire, and his affinities are actually fire and ice. Now, Mark on the fist is ice and earth, and me on the meteor, it's earth and fire. The three of us are just we just got like this weird thing going on, right? And you have nothing. And you will continue to have nothing from what I can understand.
Well, hey, no, at the moment I had wind and light.
Oh, okay, sorry. I don't see either of those things that you're doing.
No, I never do them. Never use them, and I'm going to even more nothing.
Yeah, okay. So I asked Phil and I said, because every now and then he's like, oh, do you want to eat that? And I'm like, the fire I made, yes, I would like to eat that. Because I've always had to be self-sufficient. It's the same thing with the shackles. I had to kind of learn how to be self-sufficient with the fire, and same thing with media. I'm like, I'm planning my turn, so here's my fire and all that. And he's like, I'm going to eat it. Can I eat that? I'm like, yeah, can you remake it? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of a one-way relationship we've got right now. It was actually fine until you came along, and now you want to do this. Is there a way you can make it? And Mark was like, yeah, can you also make ice? And we asked him, how many fire cards do you have? And he was like, none. And I was like, okay, so you just eat it. How many fire cards could you have taken? And he goes, oh, I could probably take one. And turns out he was also not making any ice cards, but he was eating Mark's ice. So we had to have a little powwow about this. And it turns out he said that he was exchanging cards. And look, massive kudos to him. He exchanged a fire card for fire generation, one card, and one for ice. So he's got both of us covered. Because he was pretty set on his deck and his hand. And he made those adjustments just to mix it around a little bit and at least help support us with our element creation. I do want to apologize to you, Phil, because I then had a look at what cards you didn't bring, and you only ever had one other fire generator. So for someone who has fire and ice generation or infusion and consumption, you only have two ways of making it. So I thought for some reason you had like 5 cards that might make it. So yes, I will say that I am sorry. And the fact that you're bringing half of your fire generation cards now, we're good. I'll definitely be making your fire for you.
It could be a situation, because that kind of happened with the Geminate. It was really hard to make the elements that you wanted to use. So you kind of had to steal them, or you had some weird conversion, like hoops you had to jump through. But then you hit 5 and then you can make what you want. He might have something like that. Like once he hits the 5 or 6, maybe he gets his element generators. Because you're right, like for someone who wants to consume those elements so much, there was very minimal ways of doing it. So,
well, we also worked out he's not a massive consumer of the fire either. Because I asked, that was another follow-up question I asked, and he had one card that he was bringing that he wanted it to increase his movement on the bottom. So the more I delved into this and communicated with him about this, the less I felt like, oh, okay, this is not a one-way. It was just a new line of communication with our ongoing future relationship.
I mean, what are you communicating for? The Banosphere is gone now. We don't talk at each other.
No,
go back to just like doing whatever.
No, he's gonna eat my fire, and then I'll be like, "Oh, where's my fire gone? I need that."
Yep.
That
was a fun conversation.
I'm only talking about from the fire point of view. I don't care what you do with the ice, mate. It's all yours. Eat it. Go for it. Doesn't faze me. All right. So this is the part that I'm leaving as a Gaz segment. Now, every now and then Gaz is going to have a rant or a segment or a topic or something he wants. And I was like, how can we make this into a segment for when it pops up? He's shaking his head for some reason. It's almost like he knows where I'm going with this.
So, yeah, I think I do.
So,
some of the suggestions that you had on what we would call this.
Sorry, I was trying to come up with a name. And Gaz actually is known as G-Man, right? Mark actually calls him G-Man every now and then. So I've gone with not as crude as you think, but I've gone with the G Spotlight. Right? So the G Spotlight's on you right now. Take it away, Gaz. Where are you taking us?
An intro like that, how could I refuse, right? So we'll try not to kind of keep this super ranty, and I don't want this to be a me ranting thing. I actually want to throw some ideas at you and generate a little bit of discussion. But I jumped in and I was kind of on the Reddit, on the Frosthaven Reddit today, or the other day, and there was a post about is Frosthaven is rated lower on BGG than Gloomhaven. Why? Basically, that was the thing. I thought it was, and I think the post went into a few questions. Like I thought it was supposed to be improved and blah blah blah. This type of question just gets everybody involved, right? Like anybody who has an opinion about it is going to jump on. Even people who probably haven't even played Frosthaven, right? And they have only played Gloomhaven or Jaws of the Lion. I want an opinion on it and blah blah blah. And I think it was fascinating. And for the most part, considering how many people and how I guess divisive this could be, it was actually pretty civil, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like it was quite civil. I think a lot of people were
Was
giving
this on the
their
internet?
takes.
Or was this in like a town hall somewhere?
Nah, it was weird. It was on the internet and people weren't being assholes.
I don't believe you.
I know it's probably made up, right? But maybe the mod team's just doing a great job.
I was gonna say the mods might have had a field night and just went in there just banning everyone. But yeah.
Yeah. So look, I don't want to go into what's better, either Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, because that's not what I want to talk about. But it did make me think about how you would assess that, because Gloomhaven obviously was a smash hit, right? Like it took the world by storm. It took BGG by storm. And it probably did benefit a lot from being the first of its kind from that type of dungeon crawler, I guess. Using the Euro style card thing, no dice, minimal luck, stuff like that. But also, it went viral, right? And that's going to help its reviews. So I don't want to base this on what's better or worse based on a review. But I thought about the question and I'm like, how would you answer this, right? Like, how would you actually work out which is a better game? So both of them are super in depth. Both of them are massive. It's probably such a small percentage of people actually completely finish both games, right? Like, and do all the content. So again, it's like watching 3/4 of a TV series that has 9 seasons going like, oh yeah, that's really good. And you're like, did you watch it all? Like, nah, I watched most of it, but it's not as good as the other one that I didn't watch. And you're like, okay, so what are we doing here? So yeah, what I wanted to do is play a little bit of a hot or not style game with you, right? About some of the kind of key features that appear in both of them.
Okay.
Rather than it being about whether it's I'm going to change it from hot or not to the answers being like better, worse, or the same. Okay. So this is really with all these questions. It's like, here are 2 features, right, that appear in both. Here's a feature that appears in both games. I want you to tell me if it coming in Frosthaven made the game better or worse or much the same from an experience level.
What if it's neither?
Well, then that's why it's the same.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the way I feel about the mechanic that doesn't exist in Frosthaven is about the same.
No, I'm not asking you about things that don't exist in Frosthaven. Okay. I'm saying there has to, guys. This is where this gets tricky because he doesn't listen.
I am listening.
No. I'm only pick things that appear in both games,
sure.
Right? And they're pretty general as well. And the reason I want to kind of frame it like this is that I think that there's a lot, like actually going through and doing this, there was a lot of it's almost like fluff or space or smoke or whatever you want to call it that gets like thrown up in the air when these topics get brought up. And I think it gets blown way out of proportion. When you actually compare what's changed, it's very minimal. Right? And so I just want to go through these kind of topics and go, based on them being introduced and updated in Frosthaven, do you think that our experience and play, or your experience playing the game, has been made better or worse, or it's remained the same than it was from playing Gloomhaven?
Okay.
Right. And I appreciate that you played Gloomhaven like 5 years ago. So that's, again, why I'm not going to ask really specific.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack in and it'll make sense as we go through. And if it doesn't, then we'll just delete it all, right? We'll just edit it out.
No, don't delete it. We'll turn it into a conversation about Gloomhaven versus Frosthaven.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I guess the first one is the character unlock process, right? So I'm going to give a really quick summary so the people who may not be familiar with both of them, and just kind of it'll hyper focus what we're talking about. In Gloomhaven, characters were unlocked once a PQ was completed, right? And you knew what you were getting because there was an icon. So you either knew you were getting a character that you hadn't unlocked, or you weren't getting one. You were getting some kind of like an item or something like that. But you definitely knew, all right, I'm getting Angry Face. And that meant that when you unlocked a character or you finish a character, you unlock that. Frosthaven, they're not unlocked through character retirement as much as because you get buildings, but then the characters are unlocked through scenarios, buildings, other events in the game, a whole bunch of stuff, and you have no idea where they're coming from, right? So they're the kind of two things side by side. So do you think, and this is just to go through kind of how I want to run this, do you think that change from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven has made it a better experience, a worse experience, or has it remained much the same?
For me personally.
Yeah, what do you think? I only
better.
ask you.
It's 100% better.
And why? Tell us about that.
It's just better.
Oh, yeah.
No, I like the idea that I think I've mentioned this in the past. I don't like the fact that it is tied to like the PQ you have and you select is the character you're forced to make. In a way, you don't have to, but you're always going to. That's just the pattern of how it works, right? And obviously, if you pick a PQ and the character's already in play, I don't know, it creates something funny. I just like the fact that you get them. They're not. They feel like, I don't know, pseudo random when we get them, and it always comes as a big surprise when we get them, either at the end of a scenario, unexpectedly, or we have to make some tough choice, or it's tied behind a section event on a building. I like it because it just feels like the world is growing and it's evolving, and it doesn't feel so, I don't know, black and white and linear and on rails almost. This feels a lot more open. We still don't know where three characters come from. We know where one of them does, but we assume. But we just still are going around aimlessly, and it's building up the hype and excitement. I just prefer unlocking characters this way, and I think there is a reason why it changed from the original game. Otherwise, they would have kept it.
Potentially. I think this is one of the things is that Frosthaven pushed the envelope in different directions, and it had to. We talked a little bit about this. It's a sequel. It's got to do something different. Otherwise, everyone's going to compare pretty much the same, right? Mm-hmm. Like if Frosthaven was just 100 odd plus scenarios of Gloomhaven again with no changes, everyone would have complained, right? If you push the envelope too far, then everyone complains it's too different. So it's really hard. But yeah, you're right. Like it has created a bit of randomness, and I think the best way that I look at it is that I will love the randomness. I love the surprises, but I also want to know exactly what's going on, which is impossible. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a different way of doing it. And I think you're right. It has created a hype when we do get one. It seems like a reward rather than just like a given that you retire and then you get one. Mm-hmm. And I think what you meant by like when you retire in Gloomhaven, you have to play that is that usually there isn't any new characters available. So when you retire a character, you're probably going to want to make the new one rather than remake an old one, right?
Yeah, I have seen some of the characters. My very old memory serves me right. You can get them out of order or out of retirement turn, and you've obviously still got the other two starters. But the PQ that just gave you a character, why the hell would you not make that?
Yeah,
it's like that's exactly the two starters, or the one that came because you had some achievement. I don't know.
Well,
this is yours. It's ownership, right?
Yeah. There is an ownership feel there. I feel like as well. We had the trap, and also maybe the meteor, or we had a couple sitting there waiting to go when we were retiring. And again, we were like, well, I guess is the first person to retire going to take the new one, or are they going to make one of the starter ones? We're like, 100% you take the new one.
It's in a box.
Like it's in a box, right? And you don't even know what it is. Yeah. So yeah, cool. All right, so the loot system, and just so you know, I've picked these based on what I find is the most common, I won't say complaints, but gripes that Frosthaven have introduced to make the game not as good as Gloomhaven in some sense. All right, so the loot system. All right, Gloomhaven was simple. Monsters drop coins. Coins can be exchanged for goods and services. Done. Frosthaven, you have coins, but you also have the 3 material resources, the 6 herbs, and sometimes a random chest. Okay. So ignoring the item system, because that'll be spoilers, that's the next question. Just the looting itself. What do you think?
Improve.
Better, worse, or same?
Yeah, it's better. It's better because I personally I believe, I don't know, in games like this, looting, I like the RNG element of looting. I think a lot of games do this, and it's like, oh, I can't wait to see what I get. It's sure it could be something as plain as coins, but it just gives variety. And yes, ignoring the looting part of it, it's just you don't know what you are going to get, which makes it a gamble. And I think that RNG, it just I favor RNG. I like surprises
And chaos.
and chaos.
Yeah. I think what it's done is it's brought in a surprise element to the loot. And you got that in Gloomhaven when you opened a chest, and you still get it in Frosthaven when you get a chest.
Yeah.
But it's basically brought a little bit of that to every single loot.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I agree. Like giving more variety has made it more interesting, and it means it's kind of like playing the slot machine every time you pick up a piece of loot.
You go into the scenario knowing the loot deck, right? Because you have to build it, right? And the app takes care of it for us. But you have to build it, which means if you tried hard enough, which I know a lot of people really dislike in Gloomhaven, they don't like the looting part of it. A lot of people will just go, I don't see a point as to why we're leaving all this loot on the floor. We're going to finish the scenario and we're going to divvy it up between us, right? And I know that's a very, very common house rule.
Yeah. If you want more information on that, listen to last week where we talked about those house rules.
Yeah. It feels like it's even worse in this because, like, you would feel even more guilty, I guess, going there and going, well, let's just shuffle that loot deck and hand them all out at the end, right? I think it rewards. The looting system already said it rewards you for spending time and movement and all of that to actually pick up the loot instead of attacking and pressing on forward. It's that push-pull decision in your head. But then you add the element of, well, we know that there's a corpse cap in here that someone really, really needs. So we're going to sit here and try and dig through all of this. It just adds to more of that. I think anything that adds to more choice and more juice and more chaos and all of that definitely make it better. And I think that they've done a good job with it. Can it be tweaked? Probably. I don't really know how.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into how you can improve or change them.
Right, let's go into it.
That's a rabbit hole. Okay, cool.
Rabbit holes, guys. Come on. Where's our next rabbit hole?
No. We'll find one. So the kind of linked and segue into that would be the item system. Okay. So again, just really quickly summarize that. It's super linked to the loot system, and it has to be, right? Like in both Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. But in Gloomhaven, the items were all bought with gold, and you got more of them basically as you progress through, your reputation gets bigger. I think it's based on reputation, and you do more hero type stuff, right? And then you just goes up and the shop says, hey, now I've got a bunch more items. Frosthaven, it kind of works the same, except that there's two buildings that it's tied to. You buy stuff or you craft stuff, but now you actually have to craft all these items, and you have to craft them using the things that you looted from the scenario, right? So it is adding an extra, like many extra layers. It's not just one extra layer. It's not just saying like, oh, now there's gold and I don't know, copper, right? Or 2 resources. It's multiple resources, and everything requires different combinations.
Yeah.
So the item system, ignoring the loot system as much as you can, but the item system itself, better, worse, or same?
I'm gonna go with the same. I think for this one, I think that they've it's like same but different. They've tried something different with this, and I applaud the direction they've gone in. And I think moving forward, it's going to be very hard to make it better. I think it'll stay the same. I don't think it'll go worse, but I just don't know how they're gonna make it better without fucking it up.
So do you think if in the next Haven game that's not Gloomhaven 2.0, like new kind of world space Haven game type thing, if they just shifted it purely back to gold, right? So eliminated all the crafting resources and just put it back to gold for items, would that be a step backwards, do you think?
Yeah, I actually do. I think I don't think it's a step backwards. I enjoy this system more. So I don't think it's going backwards. It's just going back to an original system that worked. It was fine. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I like this system more, but the actual, like, just from the crafting side of things and the split decks and the recipes and all that, I like the system more. I just would like to see. I probably would prefer to see the items changed, and that's where it gets hard because, it's the fact that we're using the starting items. We're not building anything better with them, but they can't be too busted. Otherwise, it just makes it the whole thing,
Yeah.
make them more desirable so that we want to craft them. Because right now they're not really overly desirable that we want to craft them, and we want to make them and buy them and all that. Sorry, I know you talk about the systems, but yeah, I was just talking about the items itself.
No, and look, that's something that I made a note of, is that I wanted to deliberately stay away from
I know.
comparing items, which it does come up a lot. It is a common conversation about this is part of the problem, is that the items are crap, right? Which there is interesting conversations around, well, about 20 of the items in Gloomhaven are also in Frosthaven, so there's actually not that much difference outside of the like upper tier. But yeah, I mean, that all kind of plays into it. Your loot system, your item system, and also the actual items you have are all kind of one ecosystem that needs to work together. It can't be separate.
Mm.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think that anything in the next Haven game, again, ignoring Gloomhaven 2.0, it needs to be different again. I don't think, because it needs to link in some way to whatever the other systems are doing. I don't think you could go back to just gold, because I feel it would just feel like it's gone back to plain like vanilla.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could just keep these material resources, or even just shifting out, I don't know, if there were 3 different material resources, and keep it the same. For the system specifically, I think I've been a bit vocal on this, like a bit, like over the last, I don't know, couple months. Just slightly more quality of life resources to help you manage the items, I think would go a long way. Like there's some like flowcharts, like crafter flowcharts that people have put together. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, this makes sense now.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why you couldn't have printed out a book, right? I know maybe cost, right? I don't say no reason. It would have been cool if you got a book, right? And then it had all these empty spaces. And when you unlock an item, you get a sticker and you put the sticker in the book. So when you wanted to craft something, it was like a menu, right? You open it up and you go, oh, okay, what can I craft? I can craft this. Oh, there's a space there. We've got to find that item.
Yeah.
Something like that, which would just make it easier to interact with, I think would make the system feel better.
I agree. You're going to have people out there who don't even have the internet, who have bought Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, that won't have access to the flowchart that's been running around, right? Or they've never been to BGG in their life. They're not part of any community. You know, it needs something in the game. Going outside of it to the internet to find these resources is handy, especially, you know, if you're part of a community where they can find it. But to anyone, like the old family, the husband and wife and the 2 kids that are playing, who aren't planning on going online, who have just gone, this crafting system is kind of what we had recently. Really difficult to navigate, because I wish something was just more streamlined. That would definitely make it easier.
So cool. All right, now this is a big one, which again I don't want to get too.
We need a rabbit hole episode, mate.
Yeah, we do. We need 6 rabbit hole episodes. Scenario design. Okay.
Better.
So. Okay, done. Look at that. Don't even have to.
100% better. And I know this is a touchy subject. I know that other people, a lot of people will be on my side and agree with this, and I know a lot of people on the other side, and they're wrong. But anyway.
Yeah, look, I think the main differences that I saw, and this is, again, part of this exercise for me was to form my own thoughts, because I do I use this to explore what the arguments were, like for, against, like what are the balances. And I guess what I really kind of documented it came down to is Gloomhaven was kill all, loot a few things, 3 to 4 rooms, go in a linear path and go do it, with obviously some exceptions. It did everything that the game needed it to do, but it kind of really heavily lent into your characters are the main thing, right? We're just going to give you almost just this space that you can just use all your cards and kill stuff. There were scenario little bits and pieces that made some of them interesting, but I feel like they were few and far between, so that enough where you're like, oh, okay, every round this is going to happen. Okay, this is different, very different. Whereas that seems to happen heaps in Frosthaven, right? Like the battlefield is constantly moving, and
Yes.
I don't say the goalposts are moving, but the way that you solve the puzzle to get to the goalposts changes often. And I think that's, I guess, changed in a few ways. Urgency is massive, right? Often you don't have time to prep, right? Playing your prep cards on turn 1. Sometimes scenarios might only have 1 or 2 rooms, right? Rather than be this corridor of things to go down, there may be 1 or 2, maybe 2 to 3 is probably a better estimate there. But then you've got like escort, tower defense, like you're digging for treasure, like doing math, like dragging corpses around, you're safe sinking ships, like heist, bombing runs. Like there's so many more like objective types,
Yep.
right? That it's just chalk and cheese between like not just the complexity, but what you're expected to do.
I think the scenario design has taken such a leap that the original scenarios, to a degree, can literally be replaced with the random scenario deck. Because there's a random scenario deck of just layouts that you can actually build with monster
really?
types and all that. Yeah, of course. I think they might have it in Frosthaven. I can't remember. There's a segment in the variants area. I think. Jesus, I can't remember. I remember seeing the cards in Gloomhaven. So people who want more of that, literally divvy this up, build your own dungeon, takes 2 seconds with the cards, right? Play whatever characters you want, lay it with monsters, and then another deck for the challenge cards, which is what we currently have. You want to make them slightly different and tweak them a little bit. There, it still becomes a kill-all, but it comes with these little monster affixes, etc., to make it a little bit harder. And there, you can infinitely play this. You don't need, hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours of design and going into scenarios, because it's that easy to create a new one. All you're doing is laying it out, filling it with monsters, and saying kill everything. Right? And you can do that with a deck of cards.
Might be oversimplify. Okay, cool. So there you go, Isaac. You could have made Gloomhaven with a deck of cards.
Yeah. And I know the main argument people are going to want is progression. They're going to want to progress the game. So they're like, oh, no, but then I'm not doing the story and I'm not progressing. No, you can tick whatever boxes you want. Go in there and just be like, you know what? We're Prosperity 3. Every time you clear one, you get a Prosperity. You can do whatever. You can unlock the characters. I'm going to stop. Okay, go.
No. I think the thing as well to understand, though, is that the scenarios in Gloomhaven, while they were not still with the same variants that Frosthaven has in regards to, like, say, objective types, they still did genuinely feel very different. Like, the way that they used those tiles, it was like using minimal tools to the massive effect. Different monster type, occasionally one special rule or one special monster, or just, scenario effects. Like, they did an amazing job of making 100 scenarios all feel very different, right? And it was not often that you would go into a scenario going like, oh yeah, this is basically just a copy of the other one, right? So even within that space, they were very different. I think Frosthaven has just done it in a different way. It's gone, well, instead of having a very small amount of variables that we're going to use in a really different way, we're going to have heaps of different variables and going to throw crazy shit at you.
Yep.
So they both, within their own ecosystem and worlds, feel very different and not boring. But yeah, it's interesting to see what they'll do when they move forward. And I'm really interested to see what Gloomhaven 2.0 throws at us, to see if they've adapted that slightly. Like, have they gone a little bit further and landed somewhere between Gloomhaven and Frosthaven?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll be half disappointed, I guess.
All right. A couple more to go through. Events. All right. So this is what I thought was really interesting, okay, is that the events for Gloomhaven, and we kind of made fun of this a lot at the start, is that you have the road and your city events. That's all the events you get, which are mostly something between pick A or B, right? We joke about this called being the pick the green berry, pick the red berry, right? Like, that's your choices. And there was sprinkled in there some, if you have a certain character class, you get some kind of benefit, or maybe avoid some kind of negative. Frosthaven tends to be A or B, right? In some of the choices, with those same kind of keyword things, which have kind of expanded further than just classes. But then there are actually quite a lot that have a third option, or just completely different way of choosing how you want to go ahead with it. Like, it's not choose this or this. It's like, do a different activity, right? And there's puzzles, maps, riddles, all this kind of crazy shit going on. And that's even before you look at the city deck. The city deck, or the city events beating the outpost decks, which is then that attack kind of phase. Where do you think has gone from with events?
Like
better or worse, or the same?
I don't really remember a lot of the Gloomhaven ones in my experience. I think the Frosthaven ones are better, but I think the writing is way better. But I think that the formula it's tough. I personally would like a little bit more. It's hard because we had that choose your own adventure one, that was phenomenal. But do I want that every time? No. But I kind of do want it every now and then. So yeah, I think it's better, but not by much.
Yeah,
I think. But to be fair, I don't think they had it really wrong to begin with. I think it actually was fine to begin with. So it didn't require a great deal of getting better or improvement other than via the options you said.
Yeah. I feel like it's, again, most of the things that we kind of look at with Frosthaven is that because you've got the summer and the winter for both the road and the city events, right? Or the outpost events. You've also got the boat events.
Mm.
And we've just come across one recently that while it wasn't a winter and a summer boat event, it did matter what season we were in
Yeah.
to what happened. So I feel like what it's done is it's provided an opportunity for there to be amazing events. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think there are no events that I remember in Gloomhaven that were memorable enough to go like, wow, that was really cool.
It's done more world building. It's definitely done that. It's fleshed out the world a lot more with a lot of characters and just the writing as well. The satire team have absolutely killed it, I think. And then you tie that in with Fortella as well. We didn't have that, right, for Gloomhaven when that came out. So I think that has really kind of lifted it. No, I'm raising it to like B tier now. In how much better it is.
The problem is, though, that some of those things aren't fun, like the attacks. And this is probably one of the parts that it'll go into the next point, which is the outpost phase. But the attacks take a while, and a lot of the time it doesn't really seem useful. It's just basically a event that says lose between 1 and 10 material resources of your whatever type you want. But that's what it could say, right? And you could roll a d10, and then that's the amount, and be like, oh, well, we got attacked, and that's how many we lost. So it's like a thematic way of making you play out like a dice roll.
Mm.
That's probably the biggest thing that people, I guess, are down on with the events. So
yeah, okay, no, yeah, that's a tough
tricky,
one.
right?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. And the last one is the outpost phase. Now, this is super
God.
controversial, right? Okay. Now, we're not going to go through the outpost phase, but what I wanted to highlight just before you tell us whether you think the outpost phase. Actually, no. Let's do it the other way. Has the outpost phase made the game better or worse?
That's why it's hard, because I'm not too sure. I don't think it's worse because I actually genuinely like parts of the outpost phase. I think it's better from okay, you know what? I'm going to say it's better, and that's probably going to be weird. It's better from an innovation point of view in that they're pushing your envelope and seeing what they can do outside of the standard Gloomhaven mold of scenario design. Is they're really trying something different, and I really, really appreciate that. Is that they've really gone all out to do all that. But if it's made it better...
What about from your experience playing the game?
Yeah, it has then.
Yeah, okay.
I think so, yeah.
So to help frame that, I'm going to quickly go through compare them side by side, because I was blown away when I did this, and it's changed my opinion of the outpost phase.
Right.
Okay. Altered my opinion. I don't think it's completely changed it, but it's definitely influenced and new information. All right. So just really quickly, I've got a bit of a list here. So in Gloomhaven, you had to go back to Gloom. No, you could optionally go back to Gloomhaven, but it didn't really matter.
There was no calendar, yeah.
There was no calendar, yeah. So there was no reason not to, or no reason to, unless you just wanted to go back and do things, right? So when you were there, the only admin you were doing was buying or selling items, retiring or creating a character, enchanting a card, and completing a city event, right? That's all that you were doing. I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anything out from that. Blessing as well, you could bless, okay? In Frosthaven, you have to go back, right? Unless it's a force link, which we've talked about, right? But the things you can do, buy or sell items, so that's the same. Although crafting is a thing now, but that's just another way of buying or selling items, right? Retiring or creating a character, which is also exactly the same. Enchanting a card, which is also exactly the same. Blessing, which is part of one of the phases, which is the same. Completing an outpost, which is the city event. Potentially an attack, so that adds a slight extra kind of piece of admin onto it. Those are exactly the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I know there's a lot of hate for the outpost phase, but you are literally doing exactly the same things that you were doing in Gloomhaven.
Yeah, okay.
The only exception is that the daylight building phase, which is where you have this deck of cards and you go through the building, small amount of admin. There's not a lot to do there. It's, do you want to buy material resources? Do you want to bless? That's when the bless phase is, and a couple other bits and pieces that you go into. And building. The building phases, which again is...
No, you just stepped over the line, guys. It's just way too much now.
Do you see what I mean, though?
Yes.
It's really weird, because when I broke this down, I'm like, okay, hang on. The building phase is just pick one or two buildings that you would wish to build and then tick off the resources. The only complicated part of this that is a little bit tedious is the daylight part where you have to go through and work out collectively we've got gold, who's going to buy this, who's going to not. But like that's not that tedious,
No.
right? And you don't get attacks mostly in summer. So therefore, half of the game you're not getting these things that make everyone really sad. I don't know. Looking at that and comparing it side to side, I'm like, wait, why do we hate the outpost phase? Like, I can't figure it out.
It's a really good point. It probably is highly tied to the event system being a little bit stronger because, like you said, outpost events are longer and require a town a town guard deck, and all that kind of stuff. The campaign sheet's probably, I don't know, larger with more things to track. I mean, even the rulebook has a much larger section for the whole outpost phase and an ordering system of when things to happen. Does that psychologically have more of an impact on someone or on a group to make it just go, oh my God, this is just so much?
Yeah,
And
like
it's
that's
tedious.
what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering. Like, it's not called the Gloomhaven phase when you go back to Gloomhaven. It's just like return to Gloomhaven. When you're there, you can do these things. But in Frosthaven, it's like, oh, now you're back here. You got to do the outpost phase. Oh shit! Wait, this sounds way too complicated.
Well, it's broken up into 5 steps, right? So you already got to remember those 5 steps. The first step is draw in a box, guys. Draw in a box. If there's numbers in there, hey, something cool might happen, and it's usually something good, right?
That's it. So I don't know, and again, like I know that this is a controversial one, and a lot of people find like so many times I'm reading, oh, we just skipped it. Like after we got like halfway through the game, we just started skipping the outpost phase, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, okay, that this is gonna be the spicy one at the end, where I'm gonna be like, this is the reason Frosthaven sucks, and I was like, oh, it's pretty much the same. Like it's just come out going like it's mostly the same.
It's just been given a 2.0 update with a little extra tweak here and there.
Now, I know that the buildings are really important and they add all these extra things into the game that then further flow in through. But I mean, again, just specifically talking about this phase, it just seems so crazy that it gets so much hate. So, like I said, I was on the kind of fence with it, and a little bit towards the outpost phase seems very bloaty. But again, when I put it side by side, I'm like, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, okay. No,
So-
well done, actually. Because, yeah, when you put it like that, it's a different kind of, it really changes your mind just around how maybe tedious and everything it is. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there is always a case of like rose tinted glasses with this stuff, right? Like, oh, Gloomhaven was the best game ever and had nothing was wrong with it. And people have been honest on like posts and comments and stuff to say that's not the case. Like there were plenty of issues with it. But I think you can look at this and go, all of these things they introduced are worse because in Gloomhaven they weren't needed, so therefore you didn't need to put them in there. But it's like, but you wouldn't play this game if it was exactly the same, right? Now, maybe I'm wrong because people are going to go back and play 2.0. But from what I understand, what I've seen, it's a fair chunk different to Gloomhaven. Like, so
2.0 is going to be the bomb. It's going to be so much fun. Just even revisiting this conversation in 2 years' time, right?
And what I'm imagining in 5 years' time, right, when we're tier listing all the Haven games, right, is I feel like Frosthaven's going to get put below Gloomhaven because Gloomhaven 2.0 came out afterwards. Whereas that I actually feel, and I know this wasn't about determining whether Frosthaven was better or worse, because I think overall it's an improvement. It's just some things have missed, some of the things they've tried. But I think Gloomhaven 2.0 is really going to take what was amazing in Gloomhaven and just round off those jagged edges, and it's going to be a really good experience. Whereas that I think Frosthaven still has some jagged edges.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but yeah, anyway, that's my spotlight rant thing.
Yeah, the G Spotlight.
Done.
All right. Well, I'm just going to throw 2 right back at you while we're in the area. Question for Gaz. You can take one system or concept from Gloomhaven and add it to Frosthaven. What is it?
Take one system from Gloomhaven and put it in Frosthaven.
A system or a concept or...
They're all in. What do you mean?
Oh, okay. I thought...
Like what?
Exactly. You tell me. I didn't have an answer prep for this. Is there anything you missed or liked from Gloomhaven that you kind of wish they brought over?
Oh, well, or maybe that they didn't change. No, see, I like that. I think that the again, a complaint that people have is that Frosthaven's too hard, and I think a part of that is because they just removed you get to control all the monsters and make them not have turns, right? I honestly can't think of anything.
Completely fine. I'm not expecting an answer.
I see Frosthaven as a sequel that is actually its own standalone game.
Yeah.
Like you can pick up Frosthaven and play Frosthaven without ever playing any other Haven stuff, and I think you could really enjoy it. Right? It's like a sequel set in the same world. Right?
Yeah.
It's like pick up either of these two and play them, and you will have fun because they're both great games.
Okay. Last one.
Sorry, that's a shit answer, but I can't.
No. I did not go in there expecting a big juicy answer from you. I know I threw you under the bus. This one's probably a bit more straightforward, right? You have a regular group of friends or just a group of friends, right? And they're asking your opinion. They're like, Gas, we want to buy a game in the Haven series, right? Now, unlike the regular advice that we see a lot of people who are looking to dip their toes into it, right, from Reddit and Discord and whatnot, people tend to say, start with Jaws of the Lion, right? They say, oh, should I get Gloomhaven? Should I get Frosthaven? Should I wait for 2.0? Start with Jaws of the Lion is what a lot of people say. Now, your group, this other group that's asking you, they can finish a rulebook in 2 minutes. They are that quick and they are that sorted. They understand. They watch the video on the core systems of the Haven games. The 2 cards, the advantage, the way everything works, monster movement, everything. They are not worried about the difficulty barrier. Which game are you recommending them?
Gloomhaven 2.0?
Okay. Not that one. Because it's not out yet. It's not out yet. Right now. They're asking you right now. We're buying one on the weekend.
Yeah. I probably would say Frosthaven because we are close-ish to Gloomhaven 2.0. And the problem is, unless they have okay. Question. Will they finish one of these games in the next 3 to 4 months?
2.0 doesn't exist. Try again.
Oh, well, then Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven.
If Gloomhaven 2.0 was never on the horizon,
Yeah.
I would say start with Gloomhaven. Yeah.
Interesting. That's all I was checking.
Because I don't think that you would appreciate the updates and the things they've changed or the things that they've tried to innovate if you have not seen the original.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
Look, I'm going to use a movie analogy because this is the way I was thinking it. It's like Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Okay? They are both great movies, right? Very, very good. And like, not all the other Terminator things. Terminator 1, Terminator 2 are great. But Terminator 2 is really good when you've already seen Terminator 1. If you started with Terminator 2, I don't know if you'd have as much of appreciation for Terminator 1. Like, it's just because it starts at a different level.
Yeah, okay.
Right? You'd be like, oh, now that's like a human dude? What? That's boring. I wanted 2 robots fighting each other. So I feel like you'd almost feel like it's a setback, even though it's not.
All right. And one final curveball into the same question. They can only afford one game for the rest of their life.
I haven't played all of Frosthaven. Play Frosthaven.
Thank you. Got it. That's.
I think it's more finished.
I got there. All right, fantastic. But no.
Oh, you were just going to keep asking questions until I said Frosthaven.
Yeah, it was basically my way of saying what's better, Gloomhaven or Frosthaven. Now, obviously, if you're going to start a new group out there, are you going to get them to play Gloomhaven? No. Now, obviously, you keep throwing, in typical Gas fashion, all of these little caveats and things, and I'm like, no, stop it. Just tell me which game's better, Gas.
Look, if you ask me, I think Frosthaven's better.
Okay. Yeah, no.
But like, I enjoyed the crap out of Gloomhaven. Like, I played it twice. All right, so, you know.
Yeah, okay. Well, we better wrap it up.
Are we going for like 8 hours?
No, but this episode and the last one, we're starting to reach a new high, like in terms of how far we are going with this. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. We will be back next week where we go to a spooky place. I've been Deddy, joined by Gaz.
And remember, when you're confused about we're going to a spooky place, it's all in the wrist.